everyone. My name is Emily Rosenfield. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Wellness and Health Promotion Coordinator in the Student Health Center. On behalf of the Solidarity Network, I'm excited to welcome you to this video podcast about mental health and well-being during the 2020 election. For those who aren't familiar with the Solidarity Network, we are a coalition of student affairs practitioners and centers who are charged with fostering student leadership and engagement with a focus on social justice and equity. This podcast is the result of many conversations that we have had with students about the challenges that we are all facing during this unique election cycle. So I'm very excited to be here today in conversation and coalition with my colleagues and with a very special guest. So I will turn it over to them to introduce themselves. Start, Elisa?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Elisa Aquino. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the program coordinator at the Chicanx Latinx Student Success Center, also known as Centro.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sharon Singh. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the program coordinator for Mosaic Cross Cultural Center. We just go by Mosaic most of the time. And I'm super excited, echoing Emily's sentiments, that we have a special guest, Ellen, with us from CAPS. I'll have Ellen introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I am Ellen Lin with Counseling and Psych Services. My pronouns she, her, hers. I am a licensed psychologist at CAPS. I've been there for over a decade. It's been a while. But yeah, I'm happy to be here, and definitely a lot going on, and definitely understand there are a lot of anxiety with this period in our life. So yeah, I'm happy to share whatever I can. Looking forward to this.
And thank you so much, Ellen, for joining us today and for sharing some of your knowledge with us. And I'll get started with the first question. And, we work with students who are very passionate and driven about social justice. I have heard that some students are saying, they experience challenges and sometimes they feel overwhelmed having to balance academics, personal life, and wanting to participate in social justice. What would you suggest for students who have to sustain their daily responsibilities, but they're also trying to maintain their wellness?
Yeah, it is definitely really hard right now, especially because we're in a pandemic at this point. And so that's compounding everything else right now, right? And it's already hard enough being students, and doing everything online is very exhausting. So I just want to recognize that. And it's so awesome that everyone is so passionate about social justice. And I want everyone to be able to continue that. And we cannot continue if we're not healthy ourselves. And so I've had to learn the hard way with that, having burned out. And so you can't do the work unless you are healthy yourself. You can't be very present unless you yourself are very grounded and taking good care. And this has to be from the perspective of we're in a marathon. This is not, even whatever happens with the election results, is not going to solve anything right away. And so we have to keep in mind, with any marathon, you start off, you have to recognize this is a long road, and to be sustainable in the long term, we have to be able to prioritize ourselves along the way so that we could stay in there in the long term. This is not a sprint. This is not going to, nothing's going to change that quickly, unfortunately. Yeah. So yeah, making sure that there are different things that you're doing to prioritize sleep, your nutrition, drinking plenty of water, moving your body, because we're sitting too long these days looking at the screen. So yeah, those are just very basic preliminary stuff.
Thank you, Ellen. I really appreciate that. And I think the long-term perspective, while daunting, is really important to keep in mind as we pace ourselves, right? So for folks who are feeling a little bit anxious about this election process and the results, not about me, but I'll count myself as one of them, what are some tools or strategies that can be used to help manage those anxious feelings and just cope?
That's such a great question. And I don't know if folks have already started to do this. I am also finding myself just getting to the point where I have to shut down. And I hope you don't have to get there to the point that you recognize you have to shut down. Hopefully you are already stepping back at times. And that's the first thing that I would recommend. Like, even with just the recent debates, right? There are times that I find that I need to turn it off, or this is not helping me. I just need to shut down. And so I'm also very visual, and I pick up a lot with what I see and what I hear. So I've actually gotten to the point, for example, that I only read and catch up on the news visually, because then I could pick and choose what I look at, versus just being in front of the TV and just having to absorb and hear everything. I think that's too overwhelming for me. And so it would be helpful for everyone to recognize what helps you and where your boundaries are, and taking care of yourself. And if that means sometimes stepping away and shutting down and rejuvenating and focusing on your joys versus always focusing on, oh, what's coming up, what's going to happen in the future, that to step away so that you could reground and center yourself again, so that you could be more present with the next event or next whatever happens.
Thank you. I really appreciate the permission, if you will, to disengage for your own well-being, but also your point, and this is something that's been really helpful for me as well, is choosing when you want to be engaged but it feels overwhelming, what are those mediums that work for you, whether it's reading or podcasts versus watching the news, and
Exactly.
and recognizing that that may change day to day, right?
Yep, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah. So along with, coping and being strategic in the way that we need to step away, right? I know for me personally, I kind of have this mentality of like, I'm allowing myself to be selfish, because my selfishness is going to lead to something better down the
Yes.
road. And obviously for folks who are watching and listening to us right now, you're seeking out resources. That means you're looking for ways to kind of step away and ground yourself. So thank you for providing that. And I really love that, like, focus on your joy. I love that language. So, I think going into kind of finding those joys, right, are, kind of back to what Elisa was saying, our students are very passionate about social justice, and a lot of them recognize that things are not going to change overnight. But definitely some of our students who are eager to engage in the election process, but maybe are struggling to express some emotional wellness boundaries, especially when it comes to leading up to the voting, or what may come out of the results of this election. Establishing boundaries, especially as they're encountering authority figures in their life, right, or family and friends who may be really passionate along with them, and might have similar views, but are leading to just a lot of airtime, or have kind of opposing perspectives from them. And kind of what would your tips or advice be to students who are trying to establish boundaries for themselves, to take care of themselves during this election process?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, this ties to being in the long run, right? And you have to pick and choose your battles. And I know for those that are really passionate about social justice, it is so hard and so discouraging at times to see all the images of people being killed and people being hurt. And it makes sense to be fearful actually of authority figures. If that's been a lot of your life experience, that's very that's actually justified. That makes sense, to have that as a trigger, have that as a moment of shutdown, the fight, flight, freeze mode, that you get triggered depending on circumstances of your people, your life, your own family experience. And so it could be very hard when you've had repeatedly experienced those challenges and you haven't had enough opportunity to decompress, to heal. Then you'll find that you get triggered very easily. And I'm using the word trigger pretty broadly, of encountering, somebody who wears certain things. Somebody who's in uniform could be triggering for some of us. Somebody who's an authority figure, depending on, again, our exposure to that over time, that could get you into that fight mode where you just want to argue. It could get you into a shutdown mode where you want to run away. It could literally freeze your brain too, where you just couldn't speak, or you just kind of shut down. You can't remember, what you wanted to do and how you want to say certain things. And so that makes sense. You have to be aware of where you're at so that you take enough time to decompress and recognize what comes up for you. And if you're already heightened like that, it makes sense that if you encounter somebody, particularly somebody who has such different point of view, you're going to get triggered very fast. You're going to get into that fight mode. You're going to get into that freeze mode quite quickly. And that's the natural way of our body to respond to keep us safe. And it would be harder for you to be centered and grounded to engage in those conversations. We're not even talking about trying to change the other person's point of view at this point. It's even staying in that conversation and staying grounded enough that you could actually have a healthy conversation. That could be very hard already. And so you have to decide for yourself what you need, that you could be grounded enough, and whether you want to, again, and I'm saying this very rationally because I'm not triggered right now, but that could be so hard in the moment when your brain and your body just reacts automatically. And so this is partly of what is helpful before you get to those situations. If you could predict what could be triggering for you, to make sure you take a lot of time to ground yourself. And so back to your question of boundaries, just recognize if you think you're going to get into a situation where there could be that triggering moment for you, where there could be potentially conflictual, you have to pick and choose how you want to ground yourself before you get there. But if you're already in that moment, if you can, take a lot of deep breaths in the moment as a way to ground yourself. Put your attention down in your body, notice your legs. Those are all ways to kind of ground yourself in the moment. Take those deep breaths so that you could kind of slow down your body's reaction, if at all possible, and then decide whether you want to engage or not. Part of that decision-making process is that person you're going to be in conversation with, or you're interacting with, is this somebody that you want to maintain good relationships with in the long run? Is this somebody who's an authority figure? Maybe your professor who has evaluative, very powerful role in that class for you. It's really hard whether you choose to speak up or not in that. And sometimes we don't know what our professor's views are. Maybe you start to get an idea at some point. It could be very challenging to come up to somebody like that who has a lot of power in different ways. We could be talking about a family member. We could be talking about a grandparent who has, certain very different traditional views than you perhaps. And so you have to pick and choose how you want to have that relationship with them ongoing. And if you start to get into an argument with them, is this something that you want to start to repair that relationship afterwards too? And that could be more time and more energy. Anyway, so I'm just throwing out different possibilities depending on the scenario, and each person will have different triggers. Yeah. I don't know if am I answering your question?
Yeah. I think, you kind of gave that example of breathing, feeling, and like grounding yourself to your body. do you have a breathing exercise that you would recommend for students to practice or start to practice now, right? Doing that body check that you recommend students to kind of do that might be quick and simple and get them to start practicing before, these heightened moments, that they may be encountering with another person?
Yeah, definitely. Do we even have time to do that right now? Because I could walk you through a very quick one. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. So when we're in a fight or flight, we breathe very shallowly, like, and again, it gets us ready to run away or fight, right? And so when we're out of danger situation, we should be able to calm down and your body naturally should start to relax and breathe slower. But again, if you encounter a lot of those anxiety provoking situations that you haven't felt safe growing up or just over time, your body has a really hard time decompressing and slowing down. And so let's just do a real quick one right now. Go ahead and take a very deep breath and imagine that breath coming all the way down to your stomach, expanding your stomach. And then hold that breath, 2, 3, 4, and slowly, slowly breathe out your mouth. Emptying that stomach, pushing that stomach towards the back of your body. Completely out, relaxing, dropping your shoulders. And even if you feel like you emptied out even more. Breathe in again. All the way down to your stomach. You may still be breathing out, actually. But when you take that deep breath in, again, expanding your stomach, the idea is to hold it there. So again, you slow down your breathing, hold it for a few seconds, and then slowly, slowly breathe out through your mouth. Taking your time breathing out so that the out breath is longer than your in breath. Drop your shoulders. Relax your jaws as you breathe out. And bringing your attention down to your stomach as you completely breathe out. When you're ready, you could take another deep breath. Down to your stomach, and again, take your attention down to your body, holding that breath. You could even quickly scan your body, see if there's any tension anywhere as you're holding that breath. And as you breathe out, you intentionally breathe out that tension with your out breath out your mouth. Allowing your body to relax. To let go. All right. So that was just a real quick 3 breaths.
Thank you.
Yeah, how was that?
That's a very nice way to start out a Friday afternoon. I almost wish that we had asked you to do that with us before we started recording. But I'm glad that we could share that with everyone else too.
Yeah.
I hope folks got to practice along with Ellen and the rest of us. So, and hopefully this helps kind of get I mean, it's hard to do this when you're really
Yes.
heightened and triggered, right? But if you start practicing now, hopefully this helps you in establishing your boundaries.
Yes, I actually was going to add that. Thank you for saying that, Sharon. And I don't recommend just doing this when you're in that mode, actually, that you're already heightened. And I recommend practice this daily if you can, because it really is a way to retrain your body to go into that relaxation way faster if you do start to get triggered again, if you practice this more regularly before those triggering events. Yeah.
And I think such a great and accessible and simple and free activity. And you know, I think sometimes we're looking for a very complicated answer. And so I appreciate that you've brought us back to something that works and is simple. And kind of a nice segue to this next question, I think. While I really value and will always promote the one-on-one and personal counseling offered by CAPS, I think you all do a really nice job of outreach and promotion for those services, and lots of folks are aware of them. And so I'm curious, what are some other resources being offered by CAPS that might be helpful to students during this time?
Yeah, definitely the one-on-one, and I really recommend seeking professional help if you find yourself really having a hard time decompressing and you find yourself just highly anxious, perhaps not even be able to concentrate, right? And so we offer a whole slew of other workshops that are available only through Zoom online these days, and so it is a lot more online work. At the same time, it's really a way to gain a lot of skills, and we try to do breakouts if it's big enough, you know, participant group, so that you connect with each other, because right now there's so many things going on that it really is helpful to be in community, connect with other students through these centers of Solidarity Network, but definitely also to be involved in group work where you still have that relational connection, that you feel that community, so that you're not feeling isolated, that you're not feeling alone. So yeah, definitely offer workshops. We also have educational counseling for those that recognize that all of this stuff is really starting to impact your educational achievements. And so definitely use that. We also have some groups and drop-in services available. We have, you know, ones for, I know those of you that are already part of the LGBTQ services at the Price Center recognize we have drop-in group for that, for example. We have healthy relationship workshop series. So there's different type of workshops and groups and drop-ins. We even have a weekly meditation actually drop-in available through CAPS. And so there are different offerings. And yeah, take a look at our website, and there are lots. I can't even remember them all. So, yeah, look under the student tab, and in fact, also through CAPS, if you look under our website, sdsu.edu/counseling, there's also a tab for self-help, and there's a couple of apps that we reference for those that want to have more additional services besides just seeing our counselors on campus or online these days. But the apps also have some additional tools, including some of these meditation recommendations. Yeah.
Thank you, Melanie. That's really helpful in knowing that the website could be something that can be used to explore the different services and programs, since there is a lot that CAPS offers. And I do have one more question for you. If, you know, is there anything else that you would want to share before we close out?
No, I think it's awesome that you all have your centers available for the students as well, and all your services too. And again, like I said, I just recommend that, you know, everyone be in community together. Again, it's really hard during this pandemic time. And we're in this for the long haul, like I said earlier. And yes, one person could make change, and that's not sustainable in the long term. And so definitely connect with others who are like-minded, who have similar values, and you'll find that that's very rejuvenating for you.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Ellen. We always appreciate your knowledge and all the, you know, guidance that you provide literally for breathing through this hard time. Thank you to Lisa and Emily for moderating with me and being on this podcast, and for all the work that you're doing on campus as well. Obviously, please feel free to check us out. I feel like we're all using Instagram as a way to connect with you. So we're going to be posting more, you know, more resources and kind of programming workshop spaces, processing spaces as we get closer to the elections and after the elections as well. So look out for that. I guess we could say, you know, follow us so that you continue to receive these resources. And we really hope that, you know, all the tips and tools and this conversation helped you. Yeah, thank you.